There's a lot of anecdotal advice around on improving your marriage. But if you want something you can really use that will actually make a difference and reignite your marriage, check out the link in the description below.
The question, can a marriage of 28 years survive addiction? Answer by Gina Williamson. Wow, tough question. I can't come from a place that understands what 28 years has been for you. Assuming your spouse is the one in addiction? I was married and had a husband with an addiction. Turns out the steps I was taking up to the point of turning was to realize I was codependent and rationalizing, irrationally, why I should keep taking the abuse. After that realization, I sought help for me because trying to change him was not working. Marriage is a commitment, and part of my wrong thinking was that no matter what, I should stay. I felt this pressure within to not make a decision to stay or go on my own, somehow knowing that when highly emotional, I would make rash choices. So instead I followed the thoughts to go to counseling. The counselor was wise and discerning. She encouraged me to work on what was broken in me and began the painful destruction of my false foundation within. I put intense effort into being healed of the chaos within. Went to a counselor 2 times a week for 6 months. Recommitted my life to God too. Within that time, she counseled that my husband should join our sessions and that it was reasonable, right and fair to graciously give him a list of terms for me to stay. The first key thing was for him to admit that there was a problem, that his serial infidelity was not okay, and for him to seek help if the marriage was to survive. He said no. He denied having a problem and blame shifted to me. Long story short, after another 6 months of me going to counseling on my own and going through the painful process of realizing he was not going to fight to save our relationship, I felt like I was released. I was praying intensely, deeply fearful of making a wrong choice, but God was kind, good, gentle, comforting and faithful to give me confirmations along the way to exit this marriage of infidelity. God has drawn me to himself ever since and transformed, renewed, healed, blessed, purposed, and destroyed the stronghold of my devotion being tied to a human relationship. I have been single for 19 years, but if it were God's will I would marry again. I will take a couple of minutes to pray for you, that you would receive direction that would spur you to take steps that lead to healing. May God have mercy on you both and lead you into everlasting arms of healing and true covenant love. Also, here's a list that might be helpful if you seek counseling options, counseling services and referrals. Answer by Janine Joy. I do addiction recovery counseling. One of the men I counsel has lost a lot, but his wife is still by his side and supporting his recovery. It depends on a lot of different factors that are unique to each individual. How strong was the marriage before the addiction? How mature are the people involved? The level of commitment. Religious beliefs may play a role. Is the person with the addiction doing his or her best to overcome it? Communication. Communication. Willingness to be vulnerable. Your belief that it can survive and be good increases the chances the marriage will survive. I have a friend whose husband had an addiction issue about 10 years into their marriage. They are going strong nearly 40 years and now. Answer by Guaranteed. It's rare to find a couple married for 28 mostly happy years, and then suddenly confront addiction. More often, the addiction has been a player in the marriage for a long time. People who go to Al-Anon or Nar-Anon discover new ways of understanding someone else's addiction that can help them decide whether to leave or stay. It's possible the marriage can survive. One partner can be consumed by addiction, and the other consumed by trying to control the addiction. Gotta have a hobby. People go on like this for years, even 28 years. It's common that marriages end when one partner enters recovery from addiction, and the other partner does nothing differently.